Hi, everybody. Good to be with you again this week. I had the idea that this week we. Uh-oh, the camera got tilted. Is that all right? That's okay? Okay. The director and producer tells me that that's okay. So today I have with me our esteemed school principal, Mary Kallman, to talk a little bit about our school year just passed and the one upcoming. And also, we have her lovely King Charles Spaniel, Finn, who might make an appearance later on in the show today, right?
One never knows.
One never knows.
One never knows with Finn.
Yeah, Finn is a wonderfully unpredictable critter, and he likes all the people in the room here, so he's currently visiting Megan. Well, this is Mary Kallman, our principal now of 1 year's tenure at Visitation. And I continue to think it was a great coup for us to be able to land Mary Kallman. We interviewed many people, and I'm sure every one of them was just crackerjack. But she's the one that the committee and I set our hearts on, and I feel very confident that we scored a big one when we reeled her in.
Well, thank you.
Shoot, thank you, thank you. Every day you have proven the rectitude of our collective judgment.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mary Kallman, you finished a year. It's been a most unusual year, and I would like to begin with any general comments you might have about our school and about the academic year just completed.
Well, I would agree that it's been a most unusual year. Usually the first year in a place, you cycle through all of the events and the routines, and this year has been very non-routine, but not until the spring. I think that what I would want to share general impressions is that Visitation is truly a tremendous community. That the value of being community, of interacting, of supporting each other is central to the way people speak and to the way people act. I've never worked in a school with this many volunteers, this many programs run completely by parents and volunteers. It's very impressive. Now, I do have a laughing sense of my year at Visitation, which is to start the year with the auction, which they chose to have a theme that involved masks, and to end the year with the entire city in masks. So it makes it a little hard to know who people are unless I've got their eyes. But that's been just quite the year. The children are delightful and respectful and lovely and everything that you would hope, and they're also very normal children. So we bump along just fine.
Bump along, that's a good way to put it. You know, we're right here in the middle of the big city, but we're kind of a small town.
That's been my impression. That's how I've explained it to people as well.
In our networking, in our ethos, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of a small town,
Mm-hmm.
and that's good. That's a good thing. Well, the small town's very happy with you, as I said before. And even in the COVID-19 pandemic, you and Linda, our assistant principal, and the faculty really came through and
Yes, they did.
found a way to sew up the year in a good fashion,
Mm-hmm.
and then extend that, I don't know, what do you call it, online education.
Online education, distance learning.
And, you know, I've read things about different parishes in the diocese and different places in the country and how well that's gone. It's been pretty uneven, I think, we can fairly say that. How would you characterize it at Visitation? Has it been okay?
I think the online learning at Visitation went exceptionally well. We just got a survey back from our parents. The diocese sent out a survey on behalf of all of us, and we received our individual results. And by and large, our parents were not happy to have to do it, but very pleased with the staff and how it went. We work in partnership with families, and that's what we want to do and what we're supposed to do. But to have to hand them our jobs and to be doing it from a distance was hard on both sides. I've never seen the teachers work so hard because their work went to emails and research and learning all of these new apps. And yet there are things we would do differently if we had to do it over again. Linda and I have joked about in the next pandemic, let's do this like this. And we just were hoping it wasn't going to be next year that we might have to, take some time off school and go back into distance learning. But we've learned it a lot, and the teachers are actually studying up this summer and trying to make things even better.
One of the teachers, I hope I'm quoting her right, I believe it was Ann Ryan, who of course is an incredibly respected faculty
Yes.
member. I believe she said to me that the online teaching was easier on her physically, but it was much more difficult intellectually because of all the new techniques, the new kind of learning that she had to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose that's typical all the way across.
It is, and if there were some people who had used less technology as part of instruction, not as needed in their class, not as part of their style, all of those people had a tremendous learning curve. That their brains were occupied with learning new things, which makes you tired to have all of that energy taken. So 100% of our people were teaching online.
And of course, some subjects are simply better suited for online teaching, I guess.
Absolutely.
Like I wonder how Mr. Rush did phys ed online. Did he try?
He did not try to do it online. Our specials teachers had determined that the focus needed to be on math, reading, religion, science, and history. And so they sent independent activities that the students could do and could log. So Mr. Rush did his through having the older kids log their physical activity, and the younger kids knowing it was get out and play whenever you can.
When I was a little kid, there was a guy on the TV, I used to watch him in Sugar Creek in the summertime of the morning, named Jack LaLanne. Do you remember Jack LaLanne?
I do.
Mr. Rush could be like Jack LaLanne.
Well, there you go. We'll give him a call and tell him what you said.
I might even watch that myself. So last week was graduation mass.
Last week was graduation mass.
And I really enjoyed it. There was such a wonderful spirit there, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
The kids were great, the faculty was great, and the mass went fine,
Mm-hmm.
I think. And afterwards, it was so interesting to watch. That crowd spilled out in front of the church, and they just they segregated according to age and gender. That's always an interesting thing for me to see.
Uh-huh.
So the dads, the males are on the south, and then right next to them are the boys, and then right next to them are the girls, and then the moms were over on the north. and they were out there, I think, for over an hour. And I don't know if you hung around for that or not.
I was a part of a bit of it, but
It was so much fun to see. Everybody acted like they were so happy to see each other. And I'll tell you, when it comes to social distancing, that doesn't mean anything to 14-year-olds.
no.
Yeah.
No, it
I
does
remember
not.
seeing those kids wrapped, arm in arm and doing this. Anyway, it was a wonderful expression of community, and it was nice to be a part of it. I know it was very different from our customary graduation routine.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that the families involved felt like they had a good experience.
All of the families that talked to me really enjoyed the whole experience. They enjoyed being back in the church. In a fun way, they enjoyed having just the parents and the child. So all of the attention from the parents is on their child rather than younger siblings, cousins.
Right.
That was a different feel to it, and it was a nice feel. It turned out to be quite a nice feel, and they really loved the homily about hopes and dreams.
Great.
Yes,
You win some, you lose some
it's true.
on that homily stuff. Well, I've come to find out that our diocese of Kansas City St. Joseph in the school office has so much esteem for our principal that they've pegged her to be part of a planning committee, I guess you could fairly call it, having to do with how we're going to reopen schools in the fall. Can you tell us about that committee and your role on it and what you're doing?
I can. There are about a dozen of us, and we represent a school nurse, a doctor from Children's Mercy, a pastor, and then a number of principals at different levels. And the task force on reopening, we mostly volunteered, although they did agree and select from among the volunteers. There he is. Now he's in pictures. Our task is to look at what are the models out there for reopening schools and what can we put in place as a template for principals to process that document in their community and make sure they have all of their I's dotted and their T's crossed and as ready to go as we can. We hope to have the report out. It looks like we'll be out by the end of June. We are still in the tweaking and what did we leave out. But it is our overall intent and if at all possible to have our students in the diocese all back in school come August.
Barring, local
Yes.
decrees, laws, etc. Do you think that, or is the goal for all the schools in the diocese to reopen in the same way?
I don't know that it's possible to open in the same way. If we are setting up systems that are responsive to CDC guidance, to health department guidance, it means that we are looking at students are wearing masks coming and going from the building and at certain times during the day. Although the guidance doesn't say that a lot of small children need to be in masks because that's a whole different trip getting those things off and on. But that it's a more physically distant rather than up close in group lines, that we are spread out more. And some schools are simply smaller. So you have to look at your physical space and determine how much distance you can get and is that a reasonable amount of distance according to CDC guidelines. There's a little more latitude with schools than there is for some other businesses. They don't spell out a number, but they also use the word when feasible.
Yes.
So that gives you a little bit of wiggle room to try to make sure we do what's best for kids.
I know, for instance, that Visitation has been doing a lot of furniture swapping, trading stuff that we have had for really good stuff that I think you had found, kind of slightly used, that's going to enable us to do the social distancing easier in some of our classrooms.
Absolutely. We received a notice in May for a chance for free student desks, individual desks. And if you're going to distance students, they can't share a table. There are some companies out there making plexiglass dividers to set up on tables, but that doesn't feel like it's as safe as a little bit more space between them. So we were able to get 260 individual student desks for free. And we are going to be allocating them out to all of the rooms where tables are and putting the tables away for now.
Sounds great. Thank you for that. That's great initiative.
Always looking for the freebies. Always looking for the freebies.
It's the Catholic way.
It's the Catholic way.
It's the Catholic way, yeah. So, am I right? It's really too early to say what this is going to look like come August. I mean, I read that, you've got what I'm going to call the Creighton model, where I think they intend to open at a regular time or maybe even early and go like mad till Thanksgiving, and then they're done till February, I think.
I'm hearing that model at the college level.
Okay.
A number of KU announced that this week as well. I'm not hearing it as much in K-12, but basically every plan we've looked at comes down to three things. We're in school face-to-face like normal, but with some extra hand washing, extra distance, and masks on occasion. Or the risk is too high and everyone's out of school and we're on distance learning, at-home learning. That's going to depend on resources for people. Do you have the technology? Does it have to be paper packets? Or you have a hybrid of the two.
So some of these other models, like part of the kids go to school 2-3 days a week, and the other part go the other 2-3 days a week, or
That would be what they're calling the hybrid model, and everyone's going to have to look at that and if that's necessary in their building.
when do you anticipate a decision being made for sure, for the sake of our parents?
Absolutely. As soon as we can, and that's why I volunteered for this task force, was I wanted to be in the information as soon as possible. We have a note going out today to some parents to invite them to be on our local task force to take what's being written and to look at our specific situation and to tweak it as needed, which is what everyone is encouraged to do.
So the state requires a certain number of instructional hours. The diocese is leaving it up to the individual schools to determine how they're going to meet that requirement?
What happened with the state last year is the announcement was made that distance learning was not going to count against their required number of hours because it was not something anyone could choose or could plan. So our recording calendar, we had to change it to instructional hours to distance learning hours. And so it was a very simple change. We are planning at this point in the diocese to keep our schedules intact to start when we usually do, mid to late August. If we have to close at Thanksgiving, it will be because the high risk is there. But to plan ahead to close and then not have it puts parents in a situation where they have no regularly structured activity for their children, and that's not what anyone wants to do.
It could be tough on parents.
Absolutely.
No matter. So I know that you don't have a figure in your head, but the diocese, all of us, are going to be looking at how the COVID warms up in the fall and the winter, if it does.
Right.
And if it reaches a particular threshold, then probably our school, along with a whole lot of other schools, will just shut it down.
It will be CDC, it will be health departments saying so, either local or state. It will be a case in your building. You'll at least have to have a few days to clean. It will be those kinds of factors, that the external factors are all saying we're at a high level of risk of transmission or we have cases too close. So some individuals may have to close. Some cities, as their city officials, make those. We're definitely going to respond to local government officials.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's
and keep
been
the kids safe.
And that's been how the bishop has been handling it.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure he'll continue to, which is the only feasible way to do it, I think. All right. Well, Mary, thank you a lot. I know that these are subjects of great interest to our folks, and I really appreciate you being with me.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't want to turn this into a motion picture length production here, so I'll just say a couple of things in closing. There's going to be a Juneteenth observance along Troost Avenue on Friday. Oh boy, I've forgotten the time. Do you
7
know?
7 p.m.
It's at 7. Thanks, Megan. Everybody who would like to come out and just I'm not even going to call it a protest. It's just to stand on the east side of Troost and pray. That's what they're calling it. And pray. Stand in solidarity and pray for no more than an hour with other people along a 10-mile stretch of Troost. And they ask that we wear a mask and that we put a piece of white tape on the outside of the mask with our prayer intention, and to make that intention known in one word. You know, peace, mercy, justice, humility, magnanimity, whatever your heart is in your heart, you would wear it on the mask and stand on the east side of Troost in that 10-mile stretch as and express solidarity with the members of the community. I hope to do it. I don't think I have a Friday night obligation, but I hope to go out there for a while, and everybody's sure welcome. Otherwise, I also need to say this. Tuesday of this week, we had no daily mass because of the Judy Sorensen funeral. Now, next week, we're not going to have daily mass on 2 days. Wednesday for the Margaret Crow funeral, daughter of Diane Welsh, and then Thursday for the Michael Siragusa funeral. So you daily mass folks, or if your folks are daily mass folks, please pass it around your neighbors. No daily mass at Visitation on Wednesday or Thursday of next week. I'm sorry about that. But there's no way around it right now. All right, I think that's everything. Mary, anything else you want to say?
I do not. Go Chiefs came to mind, and we're not in the right season.
Oh, yeah, man, I really miss those Royals. Megan, anything you think we need to add?
I don't think so.
All right. Finn, you were a good boy. Yes, you were so good. Okay, everybody. Until next time, goodbye and God bless.